When Maduro is brought to court, two completely opposite voices appear outside. On one side, Venezuelans cheering, on the other, some Americans protesting. On the surface, this looks like a clash of political positions. In reality, it is a collision between two fundamentally different understandings of justice and reality. For Venezuelans who support his arrest, their position comes from lived experience. Their country, once one of the wealthiest in Latin America, collapsed under long-term authoritarian rule and institutional decay. The currency became worthless, supermarkets were empty, hospitals lacked medicine, children suffered from malnutrition, and millions were forced to flee their homeland. To them, Maduro is not a controversial political figure, but the embodiment of hunger, fear, humiliation, and exile. They support his arrest not because they admire the United States, nor because of geopolitical calculation, but because of a simple moral instinct. If no one is held accountable for these disasters, then justice does not exist. They seek not an ideological victory, but moral reckoning, not geopolitical advantage, but historical accountability. Their position is rooted in pain, loss, and the destruction of dignity. Those Americans who oppose his arrest stand on a very different logical foundation. They emphasize national sovereignty, anti-imperialism, and opposition to U.S.-style judicial overreach. They argue that the United States has no right to judge foreign leaders and fear that such actions set dangerous precedents for power politics. These arguments are not meaningless. Within legal and theoretical frameworks, they carry a certain validity. But the core difference is this: they speak of procedural justice, while Venezuelans cry out for substantive justice. One side asks, is this action consistent with international rules? The other asks, if even this cannot be held accountable, then whom do those rules really protect? The conflict arises because one group lives in the consequences, while the other lives in concepts. For many Western protesters, dictatorship is a term in textbooks, a topic in documentaries, or a headline in the news. They can debate intervention with calm, rational distance, because the outcome will never fall upon their own lives. They have never gone hungry, never fled their country, never feared arrest for their political beliefs. They possess what might be called a moral purity made possible by safety. For Venezuelans, dictatorship is not a concept. It is daily life. Not a headline, but a fate. Not a theory, but a grave. So when Western protesters shout, "This is imperialism," what Venezuelans often hear is, "Your suffering matters less than our theory." This is not necessarily malice, but a form of moral privilege. When one has never paid the price of tyranny, one can afford to turn justice into a philosophical debate. At a deeper level, this contrast reveals a broader tension in modern society: the conflict between justice for systems and justice for victims. Systemic justice seeks consistency, legality, and limits on power. Victim-centered justice seeks recognition, responsibility, and accountability for harm. If we speak only of systems and ignore victims, justice becomes cold and detached. If we speak only of revenge and ignore rules, justice risks becoming new violence. But when a nation has been destroyed by dictatorship and international mechanisms fail to hold perpetrators accountable, support for extraordinary measures is not emotional extremism. It is rational despair. This, then, is not a battle over who is morally superior, but over who is closer to reality. Venezuelans speak from wounds. Some Western protesters speak from textbooks. One side searches for justice in ruins. The other protects theory within order. The painting ultimately does not accuse political positions. It exposes an imbalance in the world. When suffering is lived, justice is a matter of survival. When suffering is only observed, justice becomes a matter of opinion. And one of humanity's deepest tragedies is this: those who endure suffering must wait for justice, while those who do not define what justice is.